Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of my mission experiences here. Today we're gonna talk about a couple of fun things that happened to me over my time in the Prensa. My time in the Prensa is very quickly coming to an end here. So Comodoro is I was in that area for about 4.5 months, three transfers, but my time was coming to an end, and so this is gonna be probably the end of my time in the Prensa. So my mom got an email and she was freaking out and she was not happy with me when I didn't tell her. But I was we went to some member's house. We went to the bishop's house one night and they're like, "Elders, do you guys have food?" And we're like, "Oh yeah, we've got some food." And they're like, "You know what? Let us send you home some milanesas." Okay, cool. So we went home. We cooked up our milanesas. They were chicken milanesas, and sure enough, the next morning I wake up puking my guts out, food poisoning. And so I had been throwing up for hours and hours and hours. And it was a Sunday night that we got that food. And Monday morning supposed to be P day. Of course, I'm sick, and so I was really sick. I was throwing up. I threw up probably 15 times, and my companion by that point had called the mission president's wife, and he's like, she's throwing up a lot. Sorry, he said to my mission president's wife, Jake Elder Passy is throwing up a lot, and she said, all right, he needs to go to the hospital. And I really didn't want to go, so I was like, I'll just try to not go. And so after throwing up a couple more times, she's like, no, you guys have to go to the hospital. Like, if you guys don't go, we're gonna come pick up Elder Passy and take him to the hospital. So my what was it? It was two elders in our district. They were in our area picking up their scripture covers for P Day, and so they're all like, "Oh, we'll hop a taxi with you and Elder Laduane as you guys go to the hospital because they lived across the street from the hospital in Centro or in the what is that downtown." So we jumped into this taxi and we start driving, and I'm just so sick. I've got a black bag in my hands and I've got like my head out the window, and I'm just so sick, and I just felt horrible the whole ride. And it was probably a 20-minute ride from our area to downtown where we needed to go. And the whole time I'm like, I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna throw up. I don't feel good. I'm gonna throw up. And so we get to the hospital. The elders get out. They leave. They paid for the taxi. I get out and I start walking inside, and it was so funny. Anyways, we walk in and the lady's all like, "What are you here for?" And my companion's like, "He's really sick. He needs to get into the doctor." They're like, "Okay, well, we've got like a 3 hour wait." And I was like, "Okay." And immediately she's like, "Can I have your insurance card and your name?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I started to pull up my wallet and I was just like, "Oh no, vomit's coming up." And so I literally looked at her and, like, in a panic, I threw my wallet to her and I ran outside as fast as I could because I just didn't want to puke in their lobby. And so I go running outside and I just lean up against the wall and I just start puking into this bag. And it went on. It was pretty violent puking session. So I just throw up, take a breath, throw up again, take a breath, throw up again. Happened 5 or 6 times, and I was so sick. I was like, all right, this sucks. And so I just was exhausted after that. Once you throw up so many times, you just know your body is just toast. It uses every muscle in your body. And so I just like was leaning against the wall and I just sank down to sit on the ground. And I like pull a bag away from my face and like tie it up, and I look up and there are three girls, just young, probably 17-year-old girls, just standing at the edge of the steps of this hospital staring at me. And they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm great." And they're like, "Okay, sorry." And they just walked away. It was so awkward. Anyways, I was really sick, and all of a sudden, this big burly dude just like walks out with a wheelchair, and he just picks me up, sets me in the wheelchair, and then they put a red bracelet. Oops, bumping the microphone. Put a red bracelet around my wrist, and they wheeled me just back past like all 3 hours of people that were waiting in the waiting room. And they're like, "Oh, he's got to get in right now. He's super sick." A lot of people in Argentina, because the Argentine medical stuff is it's generally free. So like medicine and schooling there is free. And so because of that, people go to the doctor for literally anything, and there's always a super long wait unless you go to a clinic. And so they just like wheeled me back, put me in a bed, hooked me up to an IV. And I remember passing out, just like fallen asleep for a couple hours, and I woke up later to this IV in my arm, and the bag is empty. And then all of a sudden, like when a IV bag is empty, it your blood is pumping through your body, and so it starts filling the tube and filling the bag. And so I look up, and in the US we have like these things that are on the IV bags that, like, I don't know what they call them, but it's on the IV tube, but it won't let that happen. But in Argentina they just had like a clamp. And so the clamp was open because the IV bag was supposed to be going, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, my blood is literally filling this IV bag. Like, I'm not comfortable with this." Which I don't know how that happens because gravity, it's force feeding itself up into the bag. Anyways, long story short, I got up because I was worried. I like walk into the doctor's like little lounge room, and I was like, "I'm filling this bag with blood." And there was like 5 or 6 doctors in there, and I kid you not, they were sitting there eating facturas, which are pretty much Argentine donuts, and drinking mate. And they all start laughing at me. They're like, "Oh, you'll be fine. We'll come replace your bag in like an hour." And I was like, "What?" And so I literally just like was panicking, laying there watching this freaking bag fill with blood. Anyways, they came and changed it. I was fine, obviously. But as I'm sitting there, they bring in this lady and her mom into our room. Her mom was really sick, and she was like a 19-year-old girl. And the doctor comes in, and it's in the exact same room as me. Like, there's no curtain divider or anything. And the doctor comes in, and he's talking to the mom, and then he looks at the girl and he goes, "Oh, what's your name?" He starts talking to her. I don't remember her name. And he goes, "How old are you?" And she says 19. And he looks at me and he goes, "Hey, you're 19 too, right?" And I was like, "Yes." And he's all like, he looks back at the girl. He's like, "This is a nice American boy. You guys should go on a date and go do some stuff." And he was like hinting at, like, anyways, doing stuff. And I was like so uncomfortable. She just like looked at me and smiled and was like, "Okay, like, yeah." And I was like, "I can't. I'm a missionary. I can't do any of that stuff." And he's like, "You just don't want to." And I was like, yes, because I'm on a mission." Anyways, it was kind of a funny experience. I always have fun experiences in hospitals in Argentina, man. But so that was just one funny one. So I finally get out of the hospital, and we call our what do you call him, the ward missionary, the ward mission leader, Eric, who is a recent return missionary from Uruguay that I've talked about a couple times, who used to go out with me when I was with Elder Ladueña. And he came and picked us up in his old red car. And instead of taking us to our apartment, he took us to his parents' house, who his dad was the bishop of the ward. Took us to his parents' house, and they like literally made a room for me. And they're all like, "You're staying here tonight, and Elder Ladueña, you're just gonna stay with us." And they literally just took care of me for like 12 hours. I just was in their house. They were taking care of me. And they finally took us home at like 1 in the morning. When I had woken up, I had like fallen asleep and just passed out and slept for hours and hours and hours. And they just had stayed and made sure I was okay. They were giving me medicine and everything. They were taking care of me. Like, really very, very kind of them. And so finally they took me home around 1. Elder Ladueña and I around 1 a.m. and dropped us off at our apartment, made sure we got in all right, and very, very kind of the Forces. So that's what this picture is about, was my whole sickness. And it didn't translate over very well. I guess the way that it translated was I had some liver issues, which wasn't true. You can see right here. It says had some liver problems. And which wasn't the case. I just had food poisoning probably. But it was quite interesting. Here is another zone conference, I believe. Yeah, that was zone conference. Took our fun zone picture. This guy right here cooked a bomb asado for us, and I got food poisoning from that again. So I think I ate cow intestine, which is really, really good actually. But if it's not cleaned well enough, you can get pretty sick. So I got pretty sick from that. This is Koffler block. This is like, if you've had a symphony bar, it's like the Argentine symphony bar, but like 4 times as thick. It's literally like this thick. It's crazy. But they give those to you for your birthday in the mission. So my birthday was in March, and so this was right at the end of March. And they gave us this Koffler block for a little birthday present. It was pretty cool. And then they'd sing "Happy Birthday" to you. So this is just a training that we sat through with the assistants, and I look Like I'm having so much fun there. So more training to sit through. More training pictures. I don't know where all these pictures came from, but it's kind of funny. There's the birthday pictures again, and everybody that had a birthday. I actually broke my English fast to talk to this elder right here, Elder Barrows, Bowers, Barrows. Yeah, I think it's Barrows. He was from Phoenix, and I hadn't spoken English in 6 weeks, and so I was like, or 9 weeks at that point, and I was like, I'm gonna talk to him. So I talked to him in English. This is us at Cora's house, just having some dinner. Oh, those empanadas! I think those were empanadas. They were so good, if I remember correctly. Or is that pizza? It was pizza. Pizza. It was probably pizza and empanadas because that was a big thing. I missed American pizza so much. I was on my mission. Argentine pizza, it's good, but American pizza is just amazing. So, here's Elder Laduania and I taking some pictures together. So, this is the day I got transfer calls. You know what? This is the night we got transfer calls. Actually, we spent that time, I believe, with you know what? No, this wasn't it yet. A lot of times we'd spend transfer calls with members. Um, Maybe that was the night we got transferred. You know what? No, I remember what it is. Sorry, guys, all mixed up here. We went from that dinner over to the district leader's house where we ended up spending the night with Elder Pokemon and Elder goodness sakes, I'm blanking his name. Anyways, he's from Uruguay. We Elder Machado was his name. We went over to their apartment, had transfer calls with them, and the next morning we came to church with them because their ward met at the same time as ours, and or just before or something like that. Anyways, I got transferred to Ushuaia, of course, because I was praying about it. That's not the only reason I got sent there, but uh, Ariel sent this nice message to my mom, was saying I was a genius and they all loved me and that they were sad to see me change my area. So, and then beneath that, I kind of just explained to my mom what really happened when I got food poisoning. So, just before we left, it was Gio's birthday, Giovanna's birthday, and so we went and had watched her have her 6th birthday, which was pretty cool. Elder Lidwani and I got to celebrate and eat some cake. That was pretty fun. This was kind of my goodbye to all the members. Was the last hurrah. You go and say goodbye to your members before you move on to your next area, and so that's what I did. There's Ushuaia. So that was where I was headed. I was way up north of this picture here, and I had to take a bus all the way down to Ushuaia. So long, long haul. This is a David also sent a message to my mom saying goodbye. I gave him one of my floral ties, him and Ariel a floral tie, and it was hard to say goodbye to these people. I really grew to love these people, and it's a good thing I was only in this area for 4.5 months because I would have really, really struggled a lot more saying goodbye. It's funny because I didn't cry when I left on my mission, but I sure as heck did cry and shed lots of tears with the members when I left and was transferred areas because they really did become my family. And this is one of those circumstances that I was so sad to say goodbye to these people, man. This is Cora. Cora cried a lot when I got transferred too. She was so sad to say goodbye to me. But it was time to move on, and it was a good thing to get transferred. But it was always very, very sad. This is Cora and her grandkids Santi, who we baptized in Geo, and then this is Sister Vega, so David's mom. So my mom posted some pictures of the temperature in Ushuaia. It was decently chilly, but this is nothing. It got cold in Ushuaia. I mean, like negatives. It was a cold area, man. This was us saying goodbye to the Vishor Wells. They were giving us some. I think those are empanadas, or maybe they're. Yeah, they look like empanadas. I can't see the picture super well. Anyways, this is us having a last hurrah lunch or meriendas, they called it, like a snack with them. So it was another family I was very sad to say goodbye to. This is mate cocido, so we couldn't drink mate with members, but we could drink little tea bags of mate. And a lot of time they'd put milk in it and sugar, and it was really, really good. I love mate cocido. So that was what I was drinking there since we couldn't drink mate with the members. the Wells. It was sad to say goodbye to them because I loved all of them. They were awesome and they knew my family, and so it was always very comforting to go to their home and talk with them about those things. They were also the members that told us that there was about 10 years before I got to the mission, there were sister missionaries in La Prensa that actually passed away in their sleep because of a gas leak in their apartment. They were the ones to tell me about that, so it was kind of funny, but not the sister missionaries passing away, but it was kind of funny to be told that as a elder in that area. I was like, oh, that's really scary. So it's sad story, but this is me saying goodbye to Elder LaDuena. I think this was at the Royals house as well. It definitely was. That was it was a hard goodbye to say to Elder LaDuena because I genuinely Elder LaDuena was a tough companion at times, but he was a great companion. We had a lot of success together, a lot of amazing stories together, and it was a hard goodbye to say to Elder LaDuena because we'd become such good friends um, over the course of my time in La Prensa with him. He ended up staying in La Prensa, I think, 2 more transfers, and then he got transferred to Caleta Livia, where I ended up going after my time in Ushuaia. So this was the day I got transferred was feriado, I think it was what it was called. It was like a festival, a big festival. So they shut down the whole entire town. Like everything was shut down, all the stores, everything, and they'd have a big parade that, excuse me, went through the town. Just trying so hard not to yell in there. Excuse me. They had this big parade that would go through the town, and so they'd shut down the cyber cafes, and so we wouldn't be able to write home. And I knew that if I didn't write home that day, I was going to be traveling the next day and for the next 2 days, and then it would be like Thursday by the time I wrote home. So we were allowed to use a member's computer that day, so I wrote home on Cora's computer, which was so nice of her to let us do. This is us saying goodbye to the Sequetis right before we left Santi Gio. Ben Hamin's not in this picture, sadly, but and then there's Brother Sequeti and Sister Sequeti. This is me hopping on that bus to Ushuaia, man. I was on this bus for 46 hours. I know it says 30 hours up here, but that wasn't right. It was 46 hours on this bus, and that was a long haul. Let me tell you, that long on a bus and a little tiny seat is just, it's a long time no matter what. Plus, when we were traveling on this bus, they didn't have enough baggage room, probably because feriado and everything, and so I had to have my backpack on my lap and that roll up bag for my suits at my knees, and so I had another duffel bag under this arm here, and so I just had no room whatsoever. It sucked. There's me saying goodbye, see you later, and that was David Vega that took that picture. He sent that picture home. That was a really hard goodbye. I was saying goodbye to David. I think that was the hardest goodbye I had to say in Comodoro because he literally, as he said here, we became brothers. He'd go out with us all the time to go teach lessons. He'd been reactivated, and it was just it was a really hard goodbye to say. So here's my first picture in Ushuaia, which we'll talk about on the next episode. But I hope you guys enjoyed that last little part of my time in Comodoro in La Prensa, and I will talk to you guys on the next episode. Later.